Chair.
Just full, is it?
Oh, right.
Denise is full, is it?
Oh, is she? Got COVID.
Got COVID.
Oh, dear. Yeah. Ready?
Right, Councillor Denise Clune is obviously not here tonight. She's not well, so I'd like to nominate Councillor Jens to chair the meeting tonight.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I'll move that.
I'll second you then.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. She's going to move you.
Very clever, man. Just, yeah, I've got that as well. Well, welcome everyone to this meeting of the special subgroup on the 12th of April. I'll begin with the evacuation, which I'll just read out word for word. There is of the exits and the assembly points situated on the. Please familiarise yourself with it. On discovering a fire, please carry out the following: sound the alarm, attack the fire if possible, and it's safe to do so using the appliance provided. Signal, please carry out the following: exit the building by your nearest safest exit. All visitors report to assembly point G. All staff report to their designated assembly point on Woolpack Way car park. Do not leave the assembly point for any reason until told to do so by the incident controller or fire brigade officer. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. I've got Councillor Denise Clune, Councillor Jack Deakin, I believe Hayden Phillips is subbing there, Colin Hayfield with sub Major Singh, and Councillor Al Smith. I don't think they're the sub.
Who am I subbing for then? Yeah.
You're sorry, yeah. Councillor John.
It's for you.
Thank you. Okay. So if we just note those apologies, we'll move on to its disclosable pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Have any? Okay. So, agenda 5 is the flexible working policy, which we've got in front of us.
Just to introduce then the report, the recommendation for the special subgroup is to adopt the revised flexible working policy. So a bit of background: the council has an existing flexible working policy in place currently to respond to the arrangements set in place for the coronavirus pandemic with regards to working from home. What we've done is revise the policy to include a section on hybrid working, as we're calling it, which basically is a mixture of office working and remote working. So included a section on that, which is section 5.2 of the policy as Appendix A. And basically it's to move out of the temporary arrangements that were put into place for the coronavirus pandemic and to establish on a much more formal basis the principles to be followed in terms of hybrid working, and the details are in the attached policy if anyone's got any questions.
So, yeah, just if I go right, the only thing that's changed is the
Yes, just that section 5.2, and then Appendix A within the policy details the arrangements whilst working remotely. Okay. So those two elements, nothing else has changed.
Councillor Parsons.
Thank you very much, Chair. It was just put my microphone on. There were two things that occurred to me as I read through it. One was that policy seems very well. The hybrid working policy, I think it is in there. I would just like some assurances that in terms of future appointments, that somebody who perhaps isn't able to work at home wouldn't be pressurised to do so, as it were. As an employer, we've got to respect by working premises if that is required. I think it was in there, but I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I can answer that. So in terms of hybrid working, a lot of employers are adopting that approach. So it's definitely something that we would want to adopt in terms of our recruitment and selection processes. It may well be going forward in adverts, we would put, hybrid working could be an option to be considered within this role, because it will be dependent of the nature of the role as to whether hybrid working would be feasible or not. But yes, it wouldn't be a case of necessarily forcing someone to work from home and work hybrid if they didn't want to. And that is in the policy about individual circumstances. So there's anticipated 40 to 60% of being in the office environment, but that is down to the nature of the role. Individual circumstances, somebody may want to be in the office 100% of the time or not have a suitable working environment. So it'd be through discussions with the individuals as to for the needs of the service and the individual's preferences as well, what would work best for both parties.
That's great, thank you. The other thing that came across, I think it might have been in the existing bit actually, the process for sort of time off for interviews. I noticed that if you're a notice of redundancy, you've got time off for interview there, question. If you're applying within sort of local government, you can have time off for an interview. But it becomes a bit more difficult from what I could read if you weren't taking either of those options. And I was a bit puzzled about that because I come from a working environment where, if you were actually up for interview, actually people tried to help you to get on with it and did support you in that sense. And I found that just a bit incongruous. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just clarify, was that in a different section of the policy in the other element?
It was talking about, I think it was leave of absence.
So anything other than section 5.2 and then appendix A, that is all is exactly as what was in the original policy. But yeah, in terms of some time off, the other elements of the policy, whether there's time off from work allocated to that, may be governed by any statutory obligations or any other terms and conditions obligations. So, for example, time off for interviews within local government is part of Green Book terms and conditions.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed to be a bit incongruous. If somebody decided they wanted to go and work and longer up the road, as it were, and so on, but they were necessarily be entitled to have time for their interview. Well, I know a lot of places do actually conduct interviews in the evening and that sort of thing, yeah.
I mean, as part of the overall flexible working, part of the flexible policy, that would be part of what we'd expect individuals to use the flexi time scheme in terms of managing medical appointments, other appointments, etc. that they may have.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm certainly not arguing the policy. I think it's excellent. It's just a couple of queries. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor John.
I have a few reservations about this, to be fair. I understand during COVID we needed to operate from hybrid, as it were, a little bit in here, a little bit at home, but surely pre-COVID we had a building full of a workforce where everybody could communicate very easily and what have you. Now, is this not stopping that from coming back? Does this mean to say that we'll never go back to pre-COVID days? Is this like the new norm?
Well, in terms of the policy, we have put, in terms of these formal arrangements within the flexible working policy, we have said that we'll review it in 12 months' time to see if it's working as expected, because it's trying to get the advantages of both elements in terms of home working, so remote working and office working. So in terms of our anticipated percentage of 46% of your working time within the office. That's to make sure that the advantages that you get from social collaborative sort of arrangements of seeing people face-to-face meetings, team meetings within teams, communication, that you've got that opportunity, that got the balance of both really, because there has been benefits from employees working from home, obviously individual benefits that they may have in terms of work-life balance, etc. As an employer seeing advantages such as, employee productivity, people can focus more potentially at home, have less distractions. So it's getting the advantages of what can be achieved through remote working, but also not, losing any advantages from office working. So it's having a balance of both, really. So it's the points that you mentioned about that social interaction and having communication issues, because you still definitely need that within teams. And part of what the reason for having that sort of anticipated percentage in the workplace is and there is stuff in there in terms of managers can request employees to come in, for team meetings on days, when they feel fit, to have that social interactions between team members and managers and their team. And part of what we're looking at is making sure we're, in essence, strengthening the office arrangements. So there's always team cover within the office. I think during COVID, obviously the government guidance was to work from home where you can, so we did have very limited numbers within the office. So it is strengthening that and building that back up.
I'm just worried that as a council, we're not going to go back to pre-COVID, where we had, for example, a reception area that was manned for the public to come in, which we haven't got at the minute. And I'm just worried that this could influence that the public won't be able to have a way to deal face to face with officers over whatever concerns they may or may not have with trying to get stuff sorted. That's my concern.
Kerry, is it worth me just stepping in from a management team perspective to address that? In terms of being able to see a relevant officer, that there's a couple of things we're looking at. Some of them I'm sure are mentioned in the policy, but one of them is a duty system that's being trialled already in planning, so that there are always duty officers available to speak to members of the public if they've got a particular question. Obviously that's been trialled in planning, but that's intended to be rolled out across the organisation, so there is always somebody on call if a member of the public wants to speak about a particular issue. The other thing that we're rolling out is a booking system, so that you can contact the council and make an appointment with a specific officer to talk about a specific issue as well. So those are at least two things that we're doing. And as Kerry says, there's going to be more people in the office more of the time, in addition to that booking system and in addition to that duty officer system, to ensure that there is always somebody available for a member of the public or a councillor to speak to if they've got a specific concern about a specific service area. So those are at least two things that we're rolling out to make sure that those things are covered.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for, through you, Jeff. Thanks for clarifying that.
I think that, I'm sorry, Councillor Singh.
Yeah, going back to what Councillor Jordan's saying, but there's nobody actually physically at the front desk. Say if somebody wanted to have a contact with a dog warden or something, so they've got to go through somebody else really to get in touch, and they might need somebody straight away, or the environmental officer or something. It's a bit long-winded, really. And I've had people who said they came to the desk and there's no one there, and they walked out again. And whether you website details or phone the council office direct, but it is for some elderly people, it's a bit too much if they can't physically see somebody and talk to someone.
Again, for you, Chair, that obviously the decision to stop the rest of the reception services is a council decision that's been made, and so that's where we are. We're in a situation where we're working around that, and obviously there is the ability for people to contact somebody from the front desk, through dialing 0 on that telephone at the front desk, and get through to somebody who can deal with that concern. And there will, it's always been the case that if you turn up at reception, you're taking a bit of potluck as to whether the actual person you want to speak to is going to be in the office at any one time, particularly with some teams being very stretched at times, and environmental health, which Councillor Singh referred to as a case in point. So we think this booking system is the better way of making sure that there will always be somebody available to answer a call or to take an inquiry from a member of the public. But you'll simply do it by dialing 0 at the reception desk rather than having somebody just sitting there waiting to meet and greet you at the front desk. But the reception still works in the same way, in that you can come in, you can get through to somebody, you can speak to them, get your query answered either by the person who picks up the phone, or they can arrange for somebody to come down and talk to you about something specific, or make an appointment for you to come in and see another officer if they're not available at that time.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. I think there is an element of the new normal in this. Most employers are doing something like this now, aren't they? So, and I guess we need to do it as a way of being able to attract staff, paying good wages. We can't always compete just on wages. We need to compete on other areas of being a good and decent employer, and I think this is part of that. But having said that, I think it's right. Come back to this committee for us to consider it again. Yeah. With that, then, if there's no other comments or questions, wise flexible working policy, I'm happy to move that from the chair. Can I have a second as Councillor Singh? Councillor Singh, beat you. Yeah. Just all in favour? Just show of hands. That's carried. Thank you. Agenda item 6 is consider whether we should exclude the public. So again, I'll move from the chair that in accordance with section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business, and that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by Schedule 12A of the Act. Can I second that? Yeah.